done lately? It's Coons. What have y'all done for us lately? And if there's no answer, the only thing we owe them. This Rustin film is a fuck you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk 2. And tonight we will be discussing the review show of Rustin that was executive produced by the Obamas. Makes you really wonder, right? So tonight, Dr. Short and myself, we're going to discuss the Rustin film on Netflix. We wanted to bring this show the other day, but I got tired. And it's very important that we understand that when, hey Devin, when we look at shows, and me, I'm a person that I've been doing movie critics on my other channel, doing and critiquing movies and shows for about 3 or 4 years. And one of the things that I like to do is I really never like to do shows that depict history. And the reason why is because a lot of times things are just blatant lies and or an agenda. And we know that this Rustin has a lot of agendas. So Dr. Short is going to join us. Dr. Short is going to be on this channel as well as he's on the Angry Man's Book Club channel right now. So hopefully whatever channel you're on, you're here, you're supporting, you're hitting the like button, you're supporting Dr. Short with the Cash App, you're supporting the channel with the Cash App.
Or the Patreon.
We are avid book readers. One of the things that we want to do is we want to
keep us broke trying to keep on top of all this stuff.
We don't want to be the type of people who just sit here and regurgitate information over and over, year in, year out. We want to grow as a community.
Like the sorry ass people on the other channels that don't read, don't point people to books.
To educate ourselves.
Sorry ass celebrities and stuff. I mean, damn, we barely talk about celebrities because you know what? They've done a study. They found that stupid ass people who are not that smart, follow celebrities and stars. I have to send you that article. It's like, I'm not surprised. I don't really follow what people are doing unless, I happen to really, like I kind of like Whitney Houston, but I never felt like she liked dudes. So let me see. I got the first album and then I got the second album. And by the time the third one, I was like, no, bitch. I didn't get the one with her name's not Susan. And I mean, it's, and I'm not, certain people you just don't follow them. We don't do stupid black shit. So if you hate feminism, you're in the right place. If you hate simpism, you're in the right place. If you're sick of shallow, lazy, dumb fuck black folks, the majority, like the kind that think that vaccination is good for them. And then when they get sick, they're too prideful to admit that the same white folk who've been exploiting you for 100 years got your black ass again. Those kind of people we don't want. It's like,
I could actually do...
Fight propane, get your ass.
I could actually do commentary on that stuff. I don't know if the audience wants it. I don't know. And it's interesting that you brought up Whitney Houston because you got to remember, Dr. Short, where am I from?
You're from Northern Jersey.
My son and his family were part of that church, part of New Hope Baptist. So there's a lot of things.
I'm not mad. I'm not mad. And like I said, my relatives in Georgia and in North Carolina, some of them are named Warwick, right?
Same
and we know
family.
that that's the family name. You know Warwick because of a misprint on making the record, and the Warwick name stuck. Warwick. The real name is Warwick, Warrick. There's a big black family in North Carolina and southern Georgia with the name Warwick. And out of that Warwick family comes Dionne Warwick, possibly related. This world is so strange, friends, until all of we Negroes share some stuff in common. And we're so silly. We act like, we're astronauts to each other. Well, I I don't know anybody with that name. But how many people know how far back their family goes? Even I can't find everything. So I just
Hmm.
communicated with my cousins who are from Georgia and northern Jersey. Remember I told you all my family moved from like Georgia to Jersey or to Philly or to DC. And people tended to move where they had other friends and family. So you'll find that literally whole communities move from one area in the South to another area up north. So Northeast DC is full of people from East Carolina.
Mm.
They even have
So,
churches named Carolina, right? But anyway, we don't want to do that. We want to talk about this jacked up movie. In fact, you can fall asleep. Had they made it more like a gay porno, if nothing else to keep running to the bathroom to throw up, it could keep you awake. The movie's boring. You have a dude that would literally ask strangers to screw him in open meetings.
so you
And you
guys,
couldn't make that movie interesting enough to, I mean, because I'm not trying to lie to y'all. I fell asleep. In fact, each time I've watched this shit. I just watched most of it again. I've watched about 4 times, and I've fallen asleep each time that I've seen it, with the exception of today. Normally, I like doze off because there's not enough action. They spend so much time trying to make dude saintly. You can't make a person that gets busted for screwing 2 kids in broad daylight. You can't make that saintly. You could at least make it freaky. They didn't really make it freaky, they made it respectable. Like the picture I sent you where it's implied that he was getting hit in the booty by the young white boy. Mm.
so
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys, uh, about 2.5, 3 months ago, the information came that this movie was coming out. It was executive produced by the Obamas. Like I said in the opening,
And,
I
and,
wonder
and their
what
movie
wonder
company
why.
is called Higher Ground, and I call it Liar Ground.
So the thing is, okay, I titled the show "Truth, Lies, and Agenda." I actually wanted to do it, and make a long story short, you guys. I watched. Dr. Short was like, "Watch it. We're gonna do a review on it." He said, "You're gonna find it interesting." I watched it. So then, me and my ignorance, you guys, I asked Dr. Short some questions as our historian, as our friend and our brother, and as a resident of DC, because a lot of times, if you're not living in DC, you don't really understand what's going on and how historically, even though it was only 50 years ago, how a lot of the narrative,
60, 60
60
years.
years, 60
Yeah.
years ago, how it's been changed, how they've twisted things, how uh, the intention of the march in the beginning got switched literally during the organization of the march. So I'm going to ask Dr. Short a couple questions during the show where he's going to re-educate us on the things that he knows and the things that even in this movie where they blatantly lied and why they lied and
Or
what's the
shit that
agenda
they got
behind it.
wrong that any dummy could have got better. Let me just say to you the thing that really pissed me off when I just saw it. If you watch the first, say, 15 minutes, when they have the character that plays Adam Clayton Powell talking
Jeffrey
to the
Wright.
character that Chris Rock played. He played Roy Wilkins. If you go back, you'll see that Chris Rock has one of those office phones The Bell telephone phones, the little beige ones with the multiple lines that you push. They did not have those phones in 1961 or 62. They didn't have those phones.
So about the phones with the automatic switchboards.
Yes, you didn't have that. You didn't have phones. You know why that stuck out? Because our house had 4 or 5 phones like that, because my dad had his office in the home. So my brother had a line. We had like 4 or 5 lines. Those phones didn't become available until the 70s, if not the 70s. Those weren't there in the early 60s. They didn't even bother to get the detail. They didn't even bother to get the historical detail of the props right. Those phones tended to be green or black. That you didn't have the tan phone, two-tone. You didn't have them. I'm just trying to tell you, when I went into government offices in the 70s as a kid, our phones were black typically. They did, and if you had multiple lines, it would be on a black phone, not a beige two-tone phone. No, you didn't have those, because you still had switchboards and things like that where people physically did that. Whoever shot that scene, they didn't even think about getting the props historically accurate. Another thing I know a little bit about is Black popular music of the 1960s. In 1963, Little Richard had long since made popular hit records. He didn't have a comeback until 65. The song that said, What You've Got's Got Me, came out in 65. Little Richard hadn't had a hit since the 50s because he quit the music business and went to Oakwood College, which is a Seventh-day Adventist school down south, and stopped doing popular music. So why are they playing Lucille when he goes to Birmingham, Alabama? To Montgomery, Alabama, or Atlanta, wherever he went to. I guess the Kings in Atlanta then in 60. Okay, right. Now, that was a trip. So you got Little Richard, the song Lucille is from the 50s. Maybe it's from 1957. Little Richard stopped recording, I think, in 1957 or 58. I think it's 57. So, I mean, by that point by the early 60s, nobody's playing Little Richard. They're playing the Drifters. They're playing Sam Cooke. They're playing but that's okay. Maybe they played in oldies, but the oldies format wasn't big until the oldies revival that came in the early 70s. So it used to be, because rock and roll in 1960 technically was only 5 years old, depending on what you want to say is rock and roll. So if you've got all this new exciting music, there's no reason to be nostalgic about a record that's 3 years old, especially when that artist is no longer hot. The biggest artist in the country in 63. I mean, maybe you could have played Smokey Robinson, The Miracles, or you could have played James Brown, but they were not listening to Little Richard. I'm just telling you. That was another thing that they did. They had the little party. And remember, he comes in and the young woman is turned off because he's an old queen talking to her. And they're playing Shotgun. Shotgun by Junior Walker's and the All-Stars, recorded on the Motown Soul label. That record's released in 1965, so how could they be playing it in a 1963 party? Come on, Obama, punk-ass nigga. You can't even get someone. And let me tell you what I got from that. Because I did a little bit of work in media. And what I found is people like Obama do not hire black people. I bet you if you got around higher ground, there'd be very few black people working higher ground. It's probably full of white people that worship the Obamas. And they trusted someone white to pick the music, right? And it was 60s. And they went with what that person put down. Again, Shotgun is a big R&B and pop record in 1965, not in 1963. That's outrageous. Someone should have done their music research a little better to get accurate songs that fit the time. And then there was another one. They were in some restaurant and they were playing Doris Day, Everybody Loves Somebody. Well, in 1962, 63, the group and she recorded that song in 1958. The group that had a hit by Everybody Loves Somebody, or Everybody Loves a Lover, is the Shirelles, the number one Black and pop female group in America with the Shirelles. How do you have the white woman whose record is now recorded in 1958? So that's 58, 59, 6. Her record is 5 years old. And the new hit record that charts higher than hers, why didn't they pick the Black artist's record that would have been more representative of what they would have likely heard in 1963? It's things like that that made me think, are you crazy? The other things, the boardroom meeting. First and foremost, do you really think that the NAACP, as cheap as they were, would have a field director like Medgar Evers travel all the way from Jackson, Mississippi to New York for a tentative meeting to hear this march plan given by A. Philip Randolph? That meeting didn't happen because the NAACP has a national board which does not include their field directors. It's a different group of people. So you've got two field directors from Alabama and one from Mississippi in a meeting. And something else I want to say, the NAACP, okay, did not have a Black president and chief officer, whatever you want to call it, until the 1970s. There was a Jewish guy, name is Captor. I forget Captor's first name. It's some strange name. But Captor, Kaptor. The NAACP did not have Black folks have the very top positions in that organization until the 1970s. So you mean to tell me you're in a board meeting with the big people in NAACP and there wasn't one damn white person there? What is Obama and Michelle trying to do? They're trying to make this Black homophobia myth that Blacks are the most anti-gay people in America. That the NAACP was anti-gay and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference was anti-gay, and all of these Black homophobic patriarchs oppressed Bayard Rustin, when in reality, the NAACP at that time, Roy Wilkins, the character played by Chris Rock, was the executive secretary, not the president and CEO. They were still white. And that was the highest position that Blacks got in the NAACP. And it seemed to be one of the few of the top positions that Blacks got, because the person that Roy Wilkins replaced was Walter White, who was nominally Black but looked white. And so when Walter White left, they put another Black person in the high position for Blacks within the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And why did this field secretary position go to Black people? Well, let's look at that. James Weldon Johnson, the under counsel for the Department of State in Venezuela, the author of Lift Every Voice and Sing, with his brother, when he was brought into the NAACP, because when white people just ran everything in the NAACP with Du Bois as their front man, their Negro talking head, the NAACP had 9,000 members when white folks had almost all of the authority and power within the NAACP. When James Weldon Johnson got into the NAACP and was given a position, their numbers increased by 10 times, going from 9,000 to 90,000.
Mm.
And that's the reason I recognize, oh my God, if we want the darkies to follow us, we're going to have to give a few more darkies positions so they can bring their people in under our control. We need to remember that the NAACP had a bunch of whites and Jewish ones who were the major people who brought in the money. They handled, I mean, all these organizations require money. So Mr. Oswald Villiard and folk like that, they had the damn money. Don't believe me? You can do a quick wiki search in NAACP and they'll tell you the folks who had the top positions, in particular when you need cash, if it wasn't coming from black people, and black people never had the purse strings of the NAACP until the 1970s. So if anybody rejected Bayard Rustin, it would have been the white people running the NAACP. And if the white people in the NAACP had liked Bayard Rustin, then Boy Wilkins, who was the snitch to the FBI, would have done exactly what his white superiors told him. In the NAACP, those black folks do what the national says, no matter what. So there was no Medgar Evers at no meeting with Bayard Rustin, or whether this Elias person is a composite Negro that Bayard Rustin tried to screw. I don't know if that's a real person. We have to find out.
Hey, Dr. Short, I know that you had mentioned it and we discussed this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to us how this movie basically is putting the nail on the legacy of Dr. King.
Okay. All right. Hold on, y'all. Excuse me. Look, this big push for Bayard Rustin started right after he died. Bayard Rustin and I think James Baldwin both died the same year, 1987, if I'm correct. Somebody give me a year. When did, let me see. Wait. Let me see if I can do this. I think James Baldwin and Bayard Rustin died the same year. But you will find that James Baldwin is not, he died December 1987. And he died December 1st, 1987.
Yeah, both of them 87.
Yeah, okay, I'm right. Okay. Both of them died in 87. But James Baldwin, and let me explain to you, within 2 months of James Baldwin's death, I had moved from DC to Boston because I was going to enroll in Harvard in the fall of 1988. So I remember all this stuff vividly, what was going on. When I got into the divinity school, you're going to find that these elite colleges, it's not so much that how smart people are. These places are social engineering, trend setting, mind control entities that tell people how to think, what to believe, and when to think and when to believe it. And that's when I began to constantly hear about damn Bayard Rustin, not James Baldwin. I noticed that there was a particular hatred of James Baldwin. And James Baldwin and Bayard Rustin. James Baldwin was born 1924. When was I think weren't they about the same age when they died? Uh, let, let me see. I want to see something. James Baldwin was born in 24. And forgive me, guys. I want to see if they're born about the same year and died about the same year. It's okay.
He
Bayard
was 12
Rustin,
years 12 years older than
he was
James
12
Baldwin.
years older. Mm, mm, mm. And I can't stand Coleman Domingo. God, uh, he. There's something wrong with him. Something's wrong with him. Something's wrong with him. Now, let me just help y'all. Bayard Rustin, they loved. James Baldwin, they hate him. If you want to offend super anarchistic, radical sodomites, tell them that you like James Baldwin. They'll explode. They hate James Baldwin. Why? Even though James Baldwin was known to be LGBTQ, James Baldwin was black first for black people and couldn't stand racism. And may have had white boyfriends, but still black. Bayard Rustin, not the same. Bayard Rustin was a traitor to the black community, and they know this. Okay, and so I began to hear stories about this is in Harvard. All these elite and radical people talking about how black people, all of us, had betrayed gay people. Gay people had earned black people's civil rights. Gay people had fought and got black people their civil rights, got beaten, got thrown in jail, and straight black, in particular Christian men, stabbed them in the back. And they were particularly mad. What was going on around the time that both James Baldwin died and Bayard Rustin was that AIDS was out, and black preachers had criticized HIV/AIDS, right? And said it's a curse from God and all this other kind of stuff, right? And so these people said, we fought for black people's rights, and black folks have turned around and celebrated us dying. And that comes from the fact that the wrong people led the black movement. Or I should say the wrong black people are credited for leading the movement when the real leadership was gay, and the real leadership of the black movement was Bayard Rustin. I'm white and I'm gay and I'm a white faggot and I said so. And I would hear people say, we're gonna make people hate Dr. King or forget Dr. King. And before you know it, Bayard Rustin will be a household name, and he will be the leader that brings us all together. It was not Dr. King, because Dr. King was a whore. Dr. King wasn't true to Coretta, and Dr. King had rejected and abused and got famous off of Bayard Rustin and stabbed him in the back. And I heard that over the course of repeatedly over 3 years, we're going to get rid of Dr. King and we're going to have Bayard Rustin. Everyone's going to know who he is. When you think about it, who was at Harvard when they decided to advance Bayard Rustin over Martin Luther King? It wasn't just me. A person at the law school named Barack Obama was there when they were pushing to make Bayard Rustin eclipse Dr. King. Isn't it interesting that both me and this bathhouse Barry were at Harvard at the same time? Both of us were hearing about Bayard Rustin. And now you have Ofaga and Manshell making a film about Bayard Rustin, in which Martin Luther King, if you listen to the line of the character that played Ella Baker, that Martin Luther King was fine, but he's only fire with Bayard Rustin. And so Bayard Rustin is the thing that Dr. King needs. Like Dr. King needed Bayard Rustin. And like there was no other organizers, it's only Bayard Rustin. This is bullshit, people.
Dr. Short,
Yeah.
why is the Obamas doing this to us? And I say us, you guys in the chat, for anybody
They,
listening.
they hate us. The Obama hates black people. Michelle Obama doesn't care about black people
That
either.
that
She
even
she
if
doesn't care. She doesn't care a damn about black people. They do not give a damn about. They hate us. And the problem with black people, and this is what I hate about black folk. There's some hateable things about us. We seem to be stuck on stupid in terms of who's for or against us. It's sort of like I see marriages break up and the woman doesn't want to be with the man that's totally devoted to her. Or the guy can't be true to the woman that's totally for him. He needs people that don't want. It's weird. I know people who have cheated in their marriage and figured that the sex and the companionship would come easy to their 60-year-old plus ass once they got rid of the person they were married to, and then only after they get out there and find out that warmed over tits, saggy asses, you got enough chins to be the Chinese Republic of Taiwan. Nobody wants you. The person that wanted you, you didn't want because you figured this person wants me because they don't have any options instead of this person wants you because they give a damn. We're sorry. A lot of us seem to like misery. We pick and get behind no good people. And anyone that tries to tell anyone is jealous. It is a fact that other people, the white community and others, are trying to pick our leaders, and maybe they pick them, but we don't have to follow them. Uh, we don't have to get behind people. So Bayard Rustin has systematically been advanced as the icon of black resistance and queer resistance. Martin Luther King has become the enemy. And so, and in reality, it's an attack on black men. The Obamas are doing this because they hate us. And they also know that black people are stupid. We're the dumb fuck ass people. And that's why this happens. Because if the Obamas didn't think we were stupid, they wouldn't have made a film like this. They would be afraid to make a film if people despise them. You know what? No matter what Jewish people think about Palestinians, right about now, they ain't trying to make no movie that demonizes Palestinians without understanding that there would be major repercussions because the Palestinians would raise hell about it. But other people know there's nothing that you can't do to black folks that won't go over because we become suckers for everything. And the Obamas are, this whole gay thing is a money thing. It's a money thing. And so they're paid to do this. They're destroying us, and we're helping destroy ourselves by not demanding better.
Anybody, Dr. Short, for example, the Big Six, which was later the Big Ten, when he got the four white guys from the NAACP to join him. Anybody who has a living family member who is depicted in that movie should be highly offended.
Well, not from the King family. It's interesting that you can't use Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech and not have the King family come after you. Even if it's at a little school and you want to let the children hear his voice, that bitch Bernice King, they'll come with lawyers to attack you as if you wanted to steal the drawers off the cadaver of Coretta Scott King and Martin Luther King. No matter, I mean, so basically, they treat the legacy of Dr. King as if it's simply a family jewel. And on one level, I get it. On another level, you're trying too hard, because if you got upset that people wanted to hear the actual thing that Dr. King said, but you don't get upset that your father's made to look like a waffling idiot that needs a serial sex offending sodomite to lead him around, and you'll go with that, something's wrong with you or you got paid. And it's interesting. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you guys an insight. And some of the shit, I don't know how it happened, but what, in 2015, this guy who was a bail bondsman, I don't know how this happened to know people that knew the film director Oliver Stone. And they had been trying to have a conversation with the King family because they knew people who were white who wanted to come forward to talk about the assassination of Dr. King. And Oliver Stone wanted to make an assassination film on Dr. King. And I want to let you know, I don't know, the guy asked me, do you know anyone in the King family? I says, well, I know one or two. I don't know them that well. But anyway, the people that were the pivotal ones, the King family, were not interested. They didn't even, can you imagine Oliver Stone? I mean, to me, if you could bring out what happened, I'd want to know. And I could get paid too. The film has never been made because they wouldn't even talk to the people. So it's interesting. You can't talk to them. But the Obamas can make this.
And it's a well-known fact. It's a well-known fact also, Dr. Short, that the United States government lost in court and was complicit with Dr. King's death. And you would think that their family would still be trying to bring attention to it, because when we discuss that, most people don't know that the United States lost in court.
Yeah.
But in the conspiracy to kill Dr. King.
But there's another thing. Coretta Scott King died due to medical neglect in Mexico. They killed her too. If you killed my mother and I had money like that, oh hell, I would raise hell. So, this, maybe it's a trauma of assassination of your grandmother, your uncle, your dad. But still, if you're that traumatized, King family, then damn it, get some people that are not traumatized and fight. Or get the hell out of our lives. Stop speaking for us. We don't want you. How the hell did you get to be leader? You can't even speak up for your own family in this instance. How do you let your father get portrayed like this? And Chris Rock has a film where he's going to dog Dr. King too. They must have paid the Kings to let them trash their daddy. I'm trying to figure out, because you couldn't do that with my mother and my father. If I had lawyers, I wouldn't let you do that. I would have said, you know what? I'm going to shut your ass down. They didn't do it. So I want to say this to you, and this is a big problem. Another thing I don't like about Black people. We are a culture full of backstabbing traitors. We're loyal to nothing. There are no key principles that dominate how we do stuff. And as a result, we're all over the place. The Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. A person that doesn't have anything clear is unclear on everything. You couldn't do that. So imagine, they got upset And barbershop, when someone had the line of the film, Rosa Parks just sat her ass down. And they were all in
Said
uproar
it
over that.
entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah,
Said it
that's
entertaining.
that's comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But where's your smoke for a biopic that represents itself as if it's giving a degree of historical truth?
You ain't gonna hear nobody. Everybody went to the screening, went to the the screening
I
in
believe folk
different
got
cities.
paid. They get paid. And I'm wondering if they get paid to look the other way when we get killed, when we're being replaced by illegals and everything. We have a culture full of backstabbing, lying traitors. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't know when, I don't know how, but things are going to be so bad one day that when the lights do go on, it's going to be a hell of a judgment day for the black sellouts. Um, it's going to be so bad. And I mean, for, shoot, I'm never going to sell out. No. But anyway, let me just say this about the film also. The thing that got to me was that um, there's the thing that eats me the most is that even when they had the board meeting and they were talking about the marches that had failed or the marches on Washington, D.C., right? And how they couldn't do this and how they couldn't do
Oh
that.
yeah.
And okay, and they gave the suffragette march, then they gave the Ku Klux Klan march, and then they gave the bonus march, and they gave these numbers. So it was 8,000, then it was 26,000, and then it was 40,000, and they deliberately misrepresented that. If you look at it, and they try to make it seem as if for the bonus march that occurred in 1932, that it was all white. And the stupid ass line that liar Chris Rock said as Roy Wilkins, he said, "White boys," like someone black back then would have said that in a meeting where there would have been white people. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't have said white boys. And it's a lie. The bonus march that took place right here in Washington, D.C., shortly after my grandmother moved here from Washington, Georgia, that march was almost half black. What made people attack the bonus march in Washington, D.C., was that the whites and blacks were together, and that frightened the hell out of the white elite in this country. So it wasn't a white march, and yet the Obamas want you to think that the bonus march was a white march that got shut down, which made nonviolent protests in Washington impossible. They could have done better research. There was another march. There was another march that they should have mentioned. And I'm going to share this one. There was a march in May of 1957, which was exactly what, 6 years prior to this, was 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, right? It was called the Prayer Pilgrimage for Freedom, held on May 17th, 1957, where? At the Lincoln Memorial. What was it? It was caused by people wanting to bring up that nothing had been done on the third anniversary of the Brown versus Board of Education, massive resistance of whites towards black civil rights and education, and over 25,000 people gathered at the Lincoln Memorial. It was more than that, but you'll hear 25. That's the number they want you to have. It was a massive black grassroots march that white people didn't pay for. And the Obamas, who do not like black people, as do none of our boule coons, when there's something that black people do for themselves from the heart that's not signed off on, funded by, and participated in largely by white folks, they don't count it any more than whites don't count it. But the prayer pilgrimage happened. It was there. And the NAACP, who was at that march, who called for the protest? By Randolph, who's in the film, played by Glenn Twyman, Martin Luther King, and Roy Wilkins. The union supported the march and provided, but it was nothing like that. It was a 3-hour demonstration. Just like in 1963, Mahalia Jackson showed up. Harry Belafonte was there. Paul Robeson got blown off because he was called a communist. The president of Howard University was there. Roy Wilkins was there. And Dr. King was the keynote speaker. That march, no violence. And by the way, Sidney Poitier was there. By the way, my mother marched in that march in 1957. And it's a march that people ignore. And that march had a lot to do with Dr. King gaining even more national attention because he had a speech, "Give us the ballot." They did not include that. So if you didn't know about the prayer pilgrimage, you would have thought Black folks never marched on Washington. Everything had always failed. Nope. It was highly successful. No arrest, no violence. And it was tens of thousands of Blacks that marched. And they did not get a whole lot of white support. And Black women spoke at that event. Coretta Scott King spoke at the prayer pilgrimage. If you were to see this film that the Obamas had, is that women get shut down all the time. Not exactly true. Women spoke at the March on Washington, but let's be honest. With the exception of Daisy Bates, the NAACP head of the chapter in Arkansas, there are no major Black women grassroots leaders that people really knew. And Gloria Richardson, whose name is mentioned, as the speaker that should have been there, doesn't come to national prominence until after the March on Washington for her protest in Cambridge, Maryland in 64, 65. But because these people, in fact, let me pull up Gloria Richardson. Let me make certain I'm telling you guys that Gloria Richardson's died within the last 3-4 years. I don't want to lead you guys wrong. Gloria Richardson. She died 2021. I'm correct. And this thing that she did, she was 99 years old. Let me give you these dates where she's doing stuff. Which years did she go to? Okay, here we go. She returned to Cambridge, Maryland, in 1965. So all this, 2 years after the march, but if you watch it, you would have thought Gloria Richardson was being shoved aside because she was a woman. No. She hadn't gotten the attention yet. What's her name? Baker. Josephine Baker spoke at the March on Washington. There were a couple, but Josephine Baker, activist, raising hell, internationally known. We need to understand how invisible Black people were then. And not lots of Black folks that anybody know anything about. The one Black person that may have been, I would have thought, could have been called to be a speaker at the March on Washington is a woman by the name of Lily Mae Jackson, who was head of the Baltimore chapter of the NAACP. They had the largest chapter of the NAACP in the country was in Baltimore. This woman built the NAACP chapter up from like 300 people to close to 20,000. That's a hell of a black woman leader. This woman was basically one of the most powerful women in the state. But I don't think that Lily Mae Jackson, who had a face disfigured because of a surgery, she didn't like for people to see her face too much because of the disfigurement. I don't think she would have wanted millions and millions of people to see that half of her face. You know, she looked like, what's that rock thing from the Fantastic Four? Yeah. So, I mean, half of her face is pretty. The other half, looked like, she got hit by napalm.
So Dr. Short, they did in the movie, they did make my buddy Adam Clayton Powell a little funny, but
No, Adam Clayton Powell. I love Adam Clayton Powell. Adam Clayton Powell. Adam Clayton Powell. I used to go to church with Adam Clayton Powell the fourth.
Explain how Adam, Congressman Powell, wouldn't have had a beef with Bayer Rustin. He had a beef with King. He did not like King.
Okay,
him and King were rivals, for lack of better words.
No, let's talk about this. Black people have a generational problem, okay? Adam Clayton Powell, okay, was a Northern Negro from New York. New Yorkers are difficult to deal with. Yeah, I know it. All you New Yorkers know that y'all difficult. Adam Clayton Powell, when Martin Luther King was in maybe elementary school, Adam Clayton Powell was leading marches and protests. In fact, Adam Clayton Powell got into Congress in 1943, 44. First black congressman from the state of New York, and one of the very first in the upper. Adam Clayton Powell took on everybody and fought everybody, had a church he had what you now call a mega church. They must have had 15,000 members back then. I mean, if you have 15,000 now, that's great. Imagine what 15,000 was like back then. So he had the largest church in America. A lot of people don't realize that Adam Clayton Powell helped fund the Montgomery bus boycott. Just saying. But Adam Clayton Powell wanted to be the head nigger in the country. So did Roy Wilkins. There are a whole bunch of folks. I mean, this is a problem we have in a new black media. Certain folks want to be the biggest and the only, and there's not space for anybody else. I don't think like that. And by the way, Dr. King didn't think like that, but Powell was like that. He had to be the biggest and the baddest. And that's part of what hurt Adam in the end, is having to be the biggest and that ego. Dr. King, for all his issues, worked with other people, built all kinds of relationships, and didn't have to be the biggest, baddest one. But you have to understand that when Martin Luther King came along in 1956, 55, 56, 57, he shows up just at the point that Adam Clayton Powell is beginning to have all of the power that he wanted to do the things that he wanted to do. And here's someone that leads a bus boycott in a city of maybe 50,000 people, when Adam Clayton Powell led a bus boycott in a city of 5 or 6 million people. Decades before Martin Luther King led a bus boycott. Wouldn't you kind of say, well, hey, wait a minute. You had a bus boycott and in 1955, 56, I had a bus boycott in 1940 something. It's an omnibus company in New York. They went after Con Edison. Powell and them went after everybody and beat their asses. And we talk about big things. So Dr. King coming along, and they're both Baptist ministers. Martin Luther King's speech style, when Dr. Let me see if can I pull up King? My brothers and sisters, we come together mournful about the situation in which the Negro people find themselves in, right? Dr. King's speech style is copied off of Reverend Gardner Taylor of New York, who's a friend of Powell. So you have this younger guy doing stuff you did before this person could really piss straight, imitating someone from another city where you're not from that's your friend. And the other thing, so Powell had issues with King. That King, by the way, you need to understand, Dr. King didn't join the movement in 1955, people. Dr. King got forced in the movement, and the movement, people made what Powell probably resented in Dr. King was Dr. King was made an international figure by white people. Powell was made by Black people. That's why it was really hard to take Powell down, is that Powell had a Black base. Black people made Powell. Black people were in Abyssinia Church. Okay? And unlike Martin Luther King, who never had his own church for any length of time, Dr. King was what? He was assistant pastor of Ebenezer Church, his dad's church, because most preachers in the South didn't want anything to do with Dr. King. Dr. King was hated. So Adam Clayton Powell wanted to be the biggest. He wasn't right to do that. So if Powell lived in New York, and Powell dealt a lot with the nightlife of New York, we know that Powell would have had to dealt with Black and white gay folks. It's impossible for him not to have. It's impossible. I'm sorry. I don't care what nobody says. I'm going to have to relaunch this in a second for you guys on this channel right here.
He knew where the bodies was buried.
Yeah, he knew. I mean, here's a person that's in cafe society and all of that, right? He knows. So there's no way that this guy, Adam Clayton Powell, is this homophobe that hates all gay people. Impossible. It's impossible for Adam Clayton Powell to be this crazy homophobe. It just won't work that way. Adam Clayton Powell was friends with the musicians, the jazz. When you get around artists and other people, you're going to have kinky, freaky people around. It's no way out of it. Are y'all hearing me? So to make Powell out to be this super homophobe, and you've got a church full of musicians, it's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible that Adam Clayton Powell is this crazy homophobe that just hates gay people. However, it is possible if Adam Clayton Powell didn't like predators And if Clayton Powell didn't like sex offenders, and if Bayard Rustin was a coon, and he was a coon. Let's be clear. Let me just get this off my chest. Bayard Rustin was a LGBTQ coon. He was a coon. He was a white man's nigger. And I want to say to you, there is a woman, lawyer. She's deceased. I know you heard of her. Her name is Lynn. And I'm forgetting what Lynn's name is, but I know you know about the guy that shot 6 police in New York and he got off.
Yeah.
Okay. His attorney.
Lynn, the older white. I know who Lynn is.
Okay. You know, I know Lynn too.
Yeah.
I'm friends
Lynn did a lot of work with William Kunstler.
Yes. Lynn, I'm friends to Lynn's surviving husband. That's who I want you to interview. And I'm trying to think, what is Lynn's name? See, her husband and her have different names. Hold on one second.
Lynn has been an advocate for.
She's deceased though. Lynn died a couple of years ago.
She did a lot of work for Black people in the New York area.
No, her name Lynn. God, what's Lynn's last name? Hold on, I'm gonna get her name.
Larry Davis' lawyer.
Hold on, her name is Lynn. Lawyer.
I think she was Larry Davis's lawyer.
Yeah, hold on one second. Yeah, she was Larry Davis's lawyer. Lynn. Lynn Stewart.
Okay.
Lynn Stewart. Lynn Stewart's husband, who's still alive. Let me pull up when Lynn got Lynn Stewart was. I worked as part of getting Lynn Stewart out of jail. I was a part of it. She died. She was born October 8th, 1939. Died March 7th, 2017. Her husband and I are friends. Her husband is willing to be interviewed. In the words of Lynn Whitfield's husband, Mr. Ralph Pointer, someone who we talked tonight about it. He was a white man's man, and I'm saying he's a white man's nigger. Whenever they wanted to fight against Black grassroots initiatives, they would bring Rustin out to try to confuse and divide Black people. That was his role. Obama, who a lot of people say is Malcolm X's son, you're stupid asses. Bayard Rustin came to Howard University and tried to embarrass Malcolm X and got his ass handed to him. Bayard Rustin was not liked by a lot of people. And when Black power came along, true Black folks asserting themselves, Bayard Rustin's nowhere to be found. Bayard Rustin he's confused. Remember, Bayard Rustin's a Quaker, and I'm not trying to take anything from Quakers. I'm descended from Quakers on multiple sides of my family. So it is. But you meet these Black folks that come from white denominations, their attitude towards Black people being for and amongst themselves, that's not appealing to them. Bayard Rustin grew up in an age of segregation in a sea of white people. He had a very different relationship. And I'm not against people living around who you live around. I'm simply saying that just because stuff was nice and peachy keen for you doesn't mean it's peachy keen for us. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, and
So
Dr.
uh,
Short, I live about an hour away from Quakertown in Pennsylvania, so I know the Quakers very well. And you're right. A lot of times, we and those of us that grew up in certain areas of the country, you don't know the reality of what everyday blacks go through. And I can only imagine in the 40s, 50s, and 60s how it was when you get these blacks that have been around white people all their life and then they felt like they were equal and and then, and then
well,
they go places and start getting their asses kicked.
Byatt Rustin, first and foremost, is a Caribbean, and a lot of people don't know that. And a lot of the so-called black gay leadership have been Caribbean. And like a lot of Caribbeans, non-FBA people, they are more comfortable with they blend more with whites than with black Americans, which is their right. They're right. But don't be our damn leadership. So there are a whole bunch. There's a guy named Alfonso David. He's a Liberian sodomite leader. He's from Africa, and they're making him a black American leader. He couldn't do this shit in Liberia. Um, there are other people who are in the Harlem Renaissance that you think are black radicals who are West Indian homosexual commies. And they'll tell you it's black. It's the same way Nasty Grace Jones is a Caribbean. I'm not mad. She's a Caribbean. Okay. Used to look okay. Used to. Um, a lot of these people that are put up, so these are people being introduced to us as our leaders, as one of us, and there's somebody else. There's a lady, Audre Lorde. She's a lesbian writer. She's deceased. She's a Caribbean. And a whole bunch of these radical lesbian feminists that you see, and a lot of these radical gays that you see a lot of times, are non-FBA people. But because they've got this skin color, they know that they can be Judas goats, and they're used by the white majority against us. Byatt Rustin as a non-FBA tether sellout who's gender fluid. Let's just deal with that.
And the one thing, Dr. Short, in the movie,
And if Obama is really African, at least the line, then he's a tether, gender fluid enemy of us.
Dr. Short,
Okay.
the one thing the movie did say, what I thought was interesting that they even put this in there because it showed that he couldn't control himself with
He
his
couldn't.
sexual, like.
I look, I'm not trying to make myself special. That is not my goal. My goal is to say to you, when it comes to Byatt Rustin, someone I don't think I met, I can say a significant number of people that were in my life were either people that were friends to or knew Byatt Rustin well. I can just start off with C.T. Vivian. I can just start there. I can say John Hope Franklin. I can say my friend James Farmer of CORE. I can say Jim Foreman of SNCC. I knew him too. I can say I know someone, Dr. Billings, that knew him. I can say I used to do volunteer work with Robert Moses of SNCC. And I can say I used to do student work with Julian Bond. And I know John Lewis. And I can go down and say a whole range of people I've dealt with. Eleanor Holmes Norton. There are a range of people I either met, dealt with, knew, connected to this damn Byatt Rustin. either meet them or dealt with them or know someone that knows them. Mr. Bailey knew him. I could go on and on. The, people I either met, knew, had some kind of rapport with that knew Mr. Rustin that were around on the scene. But Rustin had no control, and he would approach your ass literally in front of people. Who was I talking to? Talking to one of my mentors that I'm not talking to. I won't say the name, but dude tried to like hit up Stokely Carmichael for some sex. I mean, if you halfway paid attention, that nigga tried to hit you up. I got that from Stokely Carmichael's personal assistant. Dude would reach for your pipe, which really like to have. I'd really like to sample you. He had no control over it, and that's with all the diseases and things that were out there then and now. When you've got to screw everybody that appeals to you, you are sick. That's mental illness. I don't give a damn who doesn't like me. If you need to get with every person that appeals to you with all the stuff out here, a lot of folks, you hear about Crohn's disease and not, you hear about Crohn's disease all the time now. You used to never hear about it. You can get Crohn's from getting fucked up the ass. Did you know that? See, when you start hearing about these diseases over and over and over again, they're always, let me tell y'all something. The pharmaceutical corporations give a lot of money to LGBTQ. You know why? They can count on these folks with their reckless lives and reckless lifestyles to engage in activity that creates new strains of disease, which creates new scares. That's why they fund it. They love Pride Month. A year or so later, there's gonna be some new shit that you don't want to get that everybody. You will pay $20,000 a year, and you can afford it because you gave a BJ to the interviewer, so you got that seven-figure salary job. You can pay $20,000 a year for drug. Have you ever had? Look, some of y'all don't have no gay friends, no gay family. If you know real gay people,
listen to what they tell you.
Real gay people. I talk about gay people that like fucking and will tell you, you know what? You can tell someone's gay. Look in that goddamn medicine cabinet. If there's enough shit in there to be like CVS, that's a dead giveaway. You know what they living for. Not everybody. Some people are just sick. But let me tell you, gay folks, man, they like live in the drugstore because there's so much stuff you catch being out there. Yes, I said it. I don't give a damn who doesn't like it. If you do stuff like you go to someone's dungeon party and like 50 people leave a load of semen inside of you, if you don't think you're not going to need some special kind of soap and creams and antibacterial and oh, hell yeah, you will. And you know what? People are so ashamed that they don't have any control over it, that they've all worked through their organizations where you can't even give education on television because it makes someone ashamed. So you can't do AIDS education anymore to spare people because when they hear about living with AIDS, it makes them feel bad. Not the fact that you screwed 5,000 people in a year or two, but that you had to hear about it. And all the while, you can't handle hearing about anything that reminds you of what you're really living with. You want to read to kids when you're a sex offender. You want to shape the books that they'll read. Damn. And the Obamas are pushing this. Do I think Michelle Obama's a man? I don't put anything past the elite. That's the way I'll answer that. And since Black people fall for everything, maybe we could fall for the greatest trans. I mean, we knew that shit was going downhill when Culture Club came out and everybody liked Boy George. that was like a test and shit to see if a drag queen could be a big pop star.
Literally, it was the dry run.
Well, there's nothing dry about what they do. And I'm not picking, and by the way, not picking on anybody. And I'm just saying to you, these people have like all these. I'm telling you, yes, really know some gay folks for real. They got a whole big ass medicine cabinet full of shit. Yes, the hell they do. Yeah, they do. Yeah. See, certain people hate people because of sexuality. That's not where I'm coming from. I don't hate you, but I can see when it's wacky. Like, damn, how many of those do you have to take? Well, I got a throat infection. It just seems like, couldn't you just get some simple gargle with salt water? No, no. Okay, I'm out. What have you gotten this right? You learn this shit, just thinking what peroxide salt water. No, it's beyond it. And you learn. And I don't go around asking people. This is, God, you have a lot of drugs in your cabinet. And that's when you start learning about it. And whenever you see VIR at the end, it's like they have like little codes. Oh, okay, this is a sex drug. That's a sex. I worked in a pharmacy for a summer, and I began to learn all the medications when people want to kill a baby or a birth control pill. You could tell by the price of like the name. And so, and I'm just telling you, when you work in the pharmacy, a lot of gay people get drugs. A
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. You
I'm
got me
sorry,
cracking.
guys.
You got me
It's
cracking up.
so this is some shit I learned. I mean, I'm just thinking pharmacy hand out drugs, asking them, but you start to notice, and when the shit's really expensive, it's them gay drugs. You really need some shits, and those are like like $80 a pill and shit. I'd hate to lose that shit. I would be fighting over my purse and shit if you tried to snatch that shit. I have like a bunch of $100 pills. Shoot, I'd have a gun too. So I I'm not judging. I'm just saying, damn, you know, if a pill costs us $1, we're tripping. These people getting these 80, 90, $100 pills, $200 pills. It's like, damn. So you get like four or like seven of them, and he's like, how is it that much? Well, his deductible's $100. So and that's when I started looking up the drugs and shit. And because this motherfucker has a cocktail. That's about this. And you understand what I'm saying? I didn't. It wasn't like I was trying to know people's business. It ended up being your job for a minute. You start learning about all these drugs people use. You know, it felt like when those women in church, you just need the fan. It says, "Damn, you have to take all this." I'm not lying on anybody. I don't want people to have to do that either. So let me be very clear. I don't want people to be sick. I would like for people to be well, overcome the trauma, whatever. But by it, Rustin, and James Baldwin, all the other people, but not James Baldwin. In fact, I know folks that knew James Baldwin, and what they said of James Baldwin was that he would discourage people from being gay. And he would not come up and have conversations about sexuality. And, I
It was.
mean,
It was. He was real B1. He was real black
he's
first. Huh?
B1, and he wasn't trying to get other people to be gay. In the words of one of my friends at New Baldwin, when this thing came up, it said, y'all leave this alone. This is my thing. In other words, he recognizes that this is something that everybody should not be into. This is what I'm into. Let me dissuade you from coming into this. Imagine that as compared to this by it Rustin that basically,
You couldn't control
like,
yourself.
yeah, if it, let me tell you a story. My god brother, who died of AIDS in the 90s, literally, until the EMS people came to put him on a gurney to take him to the hospital where he died. It's nice looking man. These guys were fucking him with full blown. They just want to. They just want to fuck. Him having
Mm.
AIDS didn't stop them. Him being sick didn't stop them. Literally, I'm wondering if they had to pull their dick out of him as they put him on the gurney. Man, you're gonna have to pull out. Oh, man, why you gonna be right? This, this is somebody I cared about. This is someone that mattered to me. This is something that I would have never wanted for Willie. Happened, sad. What do you do? And then I see Obama come out and praise this shit. And this is escalating shit with me and Obama. Do you really know what it's like to have to lose and see people get caught up in that? Um,
I don't think that he or she
I don't
ever
think
ever.
Obama's a monster to put this out. I can't bring my god brother back. I would if I could bring all these people back that I saw die, eh, to pull them away from that thing. But to hold this thing up as a hero to our people is insane. It's monstrous. He's a monster. He's trash. Um, what Nat Turner and this whole thing about William Styron. If Baldwin was a hoe, he was a hoe among hoes, is what I'm trying to say, Brian Brown. He wasn't out trying to recruit people that didn't want to be in it. They're people
If
who
he
are
saw,
look.
if
They're
he, if
people.
he,
They're
if
people
he saw the
looking for
movie,
that, looking for what he's got. That's very different from him hunting people.
if you saw the movie,
I didn't say that James Baldwin was perfect.
if he
I
saw the
said that
movie, he would understand.
James Baldwin, coming from a church background, knew his shit was wrong.
And if you saw the movie, you understand that even though the movie is trying to make Byron Rustin as this hero, like Dr. Short explained, and we saw,
A
even in the
queero.
movie, even in the movie, they show he couldn't control himself,
He couldn't control himself.
and
And
and he never
that's
came.
awful.
And if you watch the movie, and the sad part about the movie, if this really happened, like Dr. Short said, during their board meeting, Adam Clayton Powell in the movie gave him a chance to come clean when he said, "Tell him about Pasadena," and he never came clean.
But and that's the thing I want to say. They made um they made Martin Luther King looked like he was intolerant. I want to remind everybody that if Bayard Rustin in Pasadena, California, neither 1951 or 53, I thought it was 51, but in the movie they had 53. Let's check their facts, guys. Um, I think it was in 50. I thought it was 51, and he was with very young people. Bayard Rustin. Hmm, I'm looking at him, trying to think who he looks like. Hmm. Let me get this controversy. By the way, he was in the Communist Party. Let's get out of him. Influence of the civil rights movement. Come on, where's the controversy? Are they gonna put this on here? From protest to politics, foreign policy, death and belief, legacy. Okay, they took this thing out. Let me see if they had this Pasadena
I
thing.
got it. It was 1953.
It is
He
53. Okay.
he
And
was
50.
he was in the car with two men in the car.
Yeah, I heard that they were boys, teenagers.
It's called lewd vagrancy and I don't know.
Yeah. So,
Um,
but look, so here, my point is, okay, it's 53. Within 2 years, he's at whose house? Martin Luther
Martin
King.
Luther King.
They make Martin Luther King look like an asshole homophobe. And yet, Martin Luther King, in real life, 2 years after convicted sex offender, shows up at his house uninvited. He doesn't say, "Get the fuck off my porch, you faggot." Dr. King gives him a chance. In the Deep South in the 1950s, you bring a known convicted sex offender into your private personal home and into your church, and you're a homophobe. You're an oppressive gay people. Get the fuck out of here.
They try to destroy. Listen, you guys, we
That,
know that Dr. King was didn't have faults. Dr. King did a lot of things, but they are literally trying to destroy this man's legacy.
yeah, they're trying to
This
make Dr. King out. He just couldn't stand with this genius gay dude, this queero, who
and
comes
if
to
you
him with all this thing. He's going to change the life of black people. And Dr. King's worried about a little bit of sex he had way back a couple years before. It's not true. And who's the main person attacking by Rustin is another gay dude who they won't make a movie on if Obama was a real man. And I have my doubts. You would do a film on J. Edgar Hoover.
Mhm.
Do a film on J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover was after Byatt Rustin. And by the way, you know what? We need to get his FBI file. I bet you that shit's about the size of the Gutenberg Bible. That shit's he probably got stacks and stacks of this shit. There's enough paper. Damn, we could have a damn factory fire with all the damn papers that they got on Byatt Rustin's sorry ass. Are y'all hearing me? So, look, they made Dr. King look like he's no damn good. And in reality, Dr. King took a risk that you got an ex-communist, a convicted sex offender.
Dr. Short
And
before
he's a loquacious, refined sodomite down in Montgomery, Alabama, where you're surrounded by Klansmen that have bombed your house and kill you. And then you bring a man who molested two white men to your house. Sit down and think about what Dr. King had up against his ass.
explain
But hold on, what it also says for any of you that have ever gotten involved in anything with black people, and most of you have not, you'll find so few black people willing to do anything to help out till you end up being stuck with anyone you can find that will work with you. And part of that, I'm gonna just say, we have a culture, we have a brother fucker culture. Black men are catty, backstab, and I shouldn't have to join an organization, Greek letter otherwise. I don't need you to slap me around or make me do all this kind of shit and take oaths. You should be able to work with me just because I'm a black man. All other groups of men are able to do this. It's inexcusable that we refuse to. And we want white folks to just accept us with open arms, but we don't even do that, black men amongst each other. So Dr. King, desperate for help and assistance, takes this sex offender into his home. And yet
explain
he's homophobic. And above and beyond that, he gets rid of the guns and shit for this punk ass dude.
explain Dr. Short how because I don't think sometimes a lot of people understand the climate of McCarthyism back then.
McCarthyism, well, it's real simple, friends. In the 1950s, when the anti-communist thing was going crazy, if someone denounced you as a communist, I mean, someone may just come and shoot you as a traitor, kill you, fucking communist. I mean, damn, they feel it. These people, I mean, you lose your job, lose your house, lose your marriage. There were people committing suicide when they were denounced as communists. I mean, people turn on you. Think about it. You have people dying in Korea. You have all these folks getting killed or experiencing difficulty fighting against communists, and your ass is in their damn party. I mean, so you're down with my son getting shot at in Korea. Is that what it is? Yeah, he wants my son to get killed by because he's just that. And if you don't understand, this is something that black people, you guys don't get. White people take that shit dead ass serious. And so if you say to them, you, in particular, white ethnics that escaped from Poland and Hungary, and these people come away from countries that have communist dictatorship, you start talking some communist shit, these people are ready to take out a knife or a gun and kill you. They fled it. They get very violent just like that. They lived under it. They don't care. I grew up around people who escaped communist countries. Just they are very. You have no. See, the issue with a lot of our people is that we don't really believe in anything. As much as we talk about how bad everything is in America, we really have no strong core beliefs or values. I don't see it. If we did, a lot of problems that we have wouldn't exist. That's the proof of it. The lack of action, the lack of proactivity around it is proof that we're in the head fucked. And it's not biological. To me, it's metaphysical. We've turned our back on God. We worship our secret societies. We worship white people. We worship wealth. We worship sex. We worship drugs. We worship celebrities. We don't have a Allah as Muslims do or a Yahweh as Jews do. We claim to be Christians, but you have to prove that shit by me. I see niggas go to church. And like I said in the church the other day, the liquor store sells liquor. The pimp sells pussy, right? The dope man sells dope, right? The porn man sells pornos. And the church sells bullshit. The bad guys actually deliver what you ask them for. The good guys are in deceptive advertising and false warranties. So don't talk to me about no church shit. It's not that I don't believe, you don't, because I don't see it practiced. And we become more degenerate as a people. Sexy Red's ass, that bitch would have been shut down 15 years ago, 30 years ago, 45 years ago. These artists and things that you see all over the place is evidence that our people have become morally debased and degraded, and nastiness and filth is a new norm. And you have to get used to smelling weed all the time, obesity all the time, tattoos all the time, witchcraft all the time, sage. It's whatever's evil and degenerate. Baby mama, baby daddy, bad music, bad food, bad hairdos, people with bonnets on their goddamn head. Whatever is awful is good and acceptable. And that's been normed. Let's be honest, that's where we are. In fact, that's one of the things I don't like about Buy It, Rustin. And I would just say to you, if you watch the movie, first and foremost, whoever did the commentary where he said that Gandhi went down to the sea and with a handful of and picked up a handful or took a handful of salt and changed the world, bullshit. He went down to the sea and made salt. Get the damn whoever wrote that didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. And Buy It, Rustin, as you know, went to India on a sexcapade, which is where the CIA and them have records of him screwing everybody he could when he was in India. This is why Adam Clayton Powell and other people were afraid of Rustin and what was going on back in the McCarthy period, where they even were kicking everybody gay out of the government. Thousands of gay people were fired because it was presumed that Gay people were a risk to security, that a gay person for a blowjob or for getting hit in the booty or blackmail would not be loyal, couldn't keep their oath. If you look at how we're betrayed by Lori Lightfoot and Eric Adams and a range of other black politicians, I would say that they're right, that sexuality for them leads them to be able to betray us. Whether it's Black Lives Matter, where these people put their white lovers and other people ahead of us because they have sex with them. We're betrayed constantly by this. Let's call it what the hell it is. Back to McCarthy, people had everything to lose if they were denounced as communist. Let me give you, in this very room I'm sitting, maybe 1998, had a conversation with C.T. Vivian. And I was criticizing Dr. Martin Luther King. And he said to me, you read a lot. And I respect you. That's why I talk to you. You've read so much. You really want to know what was going on 60, 70 years ago. I can see you've really searched to try to know. And he says, but let me tell you something. There's some things that aren't written in books. There's some things that are never going to be written down. And there's some things that certain people aren't going to tell anyone because we don't want to tell anybody. But what you just said about Martin Luther King, you don't know what the hell you're talking about because you weren't there. I was. So he says, let me explain to you about Martin Luther King and a guaranteed income and reparations for Black people. Martin King in 1957, when we were starting the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, said that Black people needed a guaranteed income and reparations for slavery. We were just starting out in the SCLC. It said people began yelling and screaming at King and saying, Martin, we really like you. Why do you want us all dead? Why do you want to kill us, Martin? Why are you going to get us all killed? We've got families. Martin, yes, we need the money. Yes, all of this is true, Martin. But man, you want McCarthy on us? Between McCarthy and the Klan, we'll be dead in a week. They'll kill us all. They'll kill us all. Don't kill us, Martin. Martin, we can't do reparations. Not right now. We can't do guaranteed income for Black people. Not right now. We can't do guaranteed health care for Black people, Martin. They won't. Our people won't even support us as we get killed trying to get it for them. They're afraid of the little bit we did with the buses. Martin, go slow. Let's get some more national legislation passed that helps Black people see that we can win because they're against us. We all know we were lucky we won in Montgomery. But I mean, you can't even, and so Dr. King says, okay, I won't fight for this right now. So what did they do? They did lunch counters and bathrooms and stupid shit. And once they got Civil Rights Act 64, Voting Rights Act 65, what did Dr. King do? He immediately went to Chicago and started talking about money and poverty. And Dr. King ceased to be popular the minute he started really dealing with the core issues of what Black people were facing. People began to see him as a dangerous person. And what does he do in 67? He comes out against the war, right? So you talk about helping people out the poor, you're against war. This sounds like communism. Okay, part of why Dr. King got killed. Dr. King is leading a communist revolution. He's a liar. He's not a black preacher. He's a communist hiding in a preacher's outfit. He's more dangerous than Malcolm because he's got the legitimacy that he's a Christian minister, but he's a dirty communist. We know this. Okay, this is what this is. And so what does Dr. King do in 68? Or what he's planning in 67 is what? The Poor People's Campaign. To do what? To demand reparations. And by the way, I didn't know that the March on Washington that Byatt, Rustin and them had was supposed to have tents where people stayed in Washington until they got what they wanted. I don't think that that's true. I think that they took the Poor People's Campaign of Dr. King and made it seem as if Byatt Rustin was talking about this in 1963 to make you think that the Poor People's Campaign was Byatt Rustin's idea. That's another falsification in that film to make you think Martin Luther King's concern about the poor started with Byatt Rustin. It's not true. And again, the prayer pilgrimage of 1957 did not involve Byatt Rustin, meaning they had already had a successful march, a last-minute march. Got at least 25,000 people in the streets with almost nothing. They got it. So, McCarthyism and all that people are afraid of. Remember, the prayer pilgrimage took place in 1957. A lot of you have forgotten this place called Peekskill. Peekskill was where Paul Robeson gave a concert, and because he was associated with being communist, people were being beaten up. They were trying to kill everybody black that they could find because the people were black and communist. They already hate us for being black. Imagine being a black communist. Damn, just being black got you lynched. What would being black and a communist do? And you'll see, even up north, Peekskill was in New York, where white people were being attacked, people were beaten for coming to a concert given by an alleged communist. Folk were ready to kill people. Peekskill. Look it up, share it with your audience, brother. I'm gonna pull it up and share it with mine. You want to know what it's like when you get denounced as a communist? It's what you're gonna see. A lot of you, just imagine, my friends, what's gonna happen. Peekskill riots, 1949. I'm going to share this. Let me see if I can copy this and share it with you. Okay. Yeah, I have it. This happened in 1949, before McCarthyism. In Peekskill, New York. Paul Robeson made a statement. Let me read it so it's not broken up. He made a statement that, this is what he said. We in America do not forget it was the backs of the white workers in Europe and the backs of millions of blacks that the wealth of America was built, and we resolved that to share it equally. We reject any hysterical raving that urges us to make war on anyone. Our will to fight for peace is strong. We shall support peace and friendship among the nations, among all nations, with the Soviet, Russia, and the People's Republics. This is a statement he made in Paris. And they had his passport taken. Folks wanted to kill him. There was a point not too long ago, friends, where if someone even said that you were like that, basically your life is over. Adam Clayton Powell's wife, God, Hazel Scott, was denounced as a communist for knowing people that were communists. It basically destroyed her career. They would make you come before the House on Un-American activities. And if these people found that you were a communist, they could have you jailed. They could just destroy you. They went after maids, secretaries, just anybody. If you halfway did anything that they said was communistic, they could come get you. So imagine if Bayard Rustin was a communist in a communist youth league, and he's black, and he's a sex offender, and he's gay. And Dr. Martin Luther King down in reactionary ass Alabama takes this man into his home and his church. Damn, that's a hell of a risky move. Are y'all hearing me out there? And I also want to mention something to y'all while we're doing this, that Bayard Rustin, like a lot of other people, were into Gandhi, and Gandhi was a pedophile. Gandhi was bisexual. Gandhi hated black people's asses. It is stupid for us to praise Gandhi so damn much. Gandhi didn't give a damn about us. Yeah, it's bad that we self, and the communists had a plan, a thing called Comintern, which stands for the Communist International. The communist plan to use black people as basically a human sacrifice to destroy America. This is the so-called 5 states that black people would get. There would be a Soviet republic for black people in Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana would be the black republic that the communists were supposed to help black to break off from America so blacks would have their own country. Don't think that those people give a damn about us, because they don't. But they were willing. And so you'll find that the Communist Party tried to recruit black people so we could be used.
So you guys
get all of us killed. The whole plan is to use black people as the social dynamite to blow up the United States. And of course, we would be destroyed. We would be exterminated, but ultimately America would become a communist nation, and blacks would be the human sacrifice. This is what they want to do. And so to hell with this communist shit. I mean, I'm not for it. I don't give a damn who out there is. Karl Marx was a racist. Engels was a racist. I don't give a damn about none of it.
So you guys, if you check out this movie or whatever y'all want to call it.
Yeah, y'all want to what? Well, it's I call it a bio trick. It's a bio trick, and Bayard Rustin, all they're trying to do. I'm gonna just tell you what they really want. The whole purpose of this goddamn Ofaga and Manshell, what they want to do. What's being implied is that you had this queer man was the architect of what caused the civil rights movement to really have an effect, when Adam Clayton Powell did way more than Bayard Rustin ever did. I'm just gonna say that. And he liked pussy. So we should celebrate people that like pussy too, right? Perhaps more so. Let me say this to you. What's being implied by this film that this man gave his life for everyone to be included and enjoy the American dream, but gay people have been left out. And that wording is actually used in legislation that's pending in our Congress called the Equality Act. That gay people don't enjoy any of the benefits of American life. Literally, they changed all the wording of the Civil Rights Act to make it seem as if gay people can't get housing, gays can't get education, gays can't get jobs, while everybody else is getting it. And so what's being implied is that to honor this great man, Bayard Rustin, we should ratify the Gay Equality Act. So pedophiles, people have sex with animals, people can't figure out what their sexuality is, whatever, they would be a protected class like blacks. And see how much people hate us? They equate us and make us partners to degenerate shit that a lot of us don't agree with, if not most. And this is what the Obamas are doing. Obama is trash, and Obama's a communist. Obama was a communist as a young person. The communists had this thing called demoralization. When you want to break a society down, you promote a lot of degeneracy. Because if you can destroy the morals of a people, you destroy the society, you weaken it, it can be conquered. I'm going to say this of Bayard Rustin. What makes him so evil is that he wanted black people to be disarmed in a country where the Second Amendment is everyone's right. So you can't own guns and you can't fight anyone. And then you don't want people to believe in God. So you spiritually disarm us and physically disarm us. And what you get with that, you get the genocide, a slow genocide, a cultural genocide, a moral genocide. This is what Bayard Rustin offers. He is scum. He is filth. The Obamas are scum and filth. And as long as God allows me to live, every chance when you see me, if Obama comes up, I'm denouncing that butterscotch Bullwinkle looking ass coon. He's just despicable. He does look like Bullwinkle if you pull, or actually he looks like Lurch from the Addams Family. And I think Lurch was straight. He didn't even get that right. It's terrible. I know you got to go to work tomorrow.
I'm gonna close out on this end, Dr. Short.
Yes.
Appreciate you guys.
Well, we can stop here now. The other thing, hold on one more second. I'm gonna hold you one more second. I'm trying to think of what. Oh yes, and equality is Bayard Rustin having a white man ride his back. So getting screwed in the ass by a white dude is inclusion. And but you know what? He was what they call an aggressive bottom. Now I may like getting screwed at my pussy, but I'm in charge. So he's always lecturing his white boyfriend and telling him, I want you to be my assistant, not Mrs. Rustin. And I'm thinking they could have left that line out. And so it's like Obama really liked making this film. Maybe it's like those little hidden letters that are down at Emory University. He's always wanted to let this stuff out. I'm so sick of it. You know, I almost wish that he'd have irritable bowel syndrome for the rest of his life since he likes rectum so much. And he could spend time with his own, his annoying ass. But let's stop there. I need to let this brother go. I do want to say, support our channel, retweet this. I have a Patreon. I want to thank all of you that are Patreon supporters of Dr. Randy Short. The Cash App is Dr. Randy Short. Of course, MFM helps me do what I'm doing. Let's Talk 2 is the channel, and his Cash App is $, was it L Talk 5600. We're doing well. We're reaching thousands of people, and we can do more with your help and your assistance. We are going to revisit. I'm going to have Ralph Point, and we're going to talk about the sorry ass Bayard Rustin from someone that used to fight him. So I mean, I want to get an old boomer Negro to tell y'all the shit I'm telling you. It, I do dislike him, but that's not why I'm saying it. And just you name it, by Rustin. Mm, 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 mm. And if you see one of his last interviews, he said that the gay movement was more important than the black movement. He's trash. And Obama and Michelle, she's a trash. I mean, and the thing is if Michelle Obama were a man, and we were certain of that, we could be more aggressive in criticizing her. But because she gets the benefit of the doubt for being a woman, folks are more polite in how they talk about her. But the fact that she signs off on all this nasty shit that her husband does, she's the same, if not worse than him. What kind of woman wants rainbow colors on the White House? Take your kids around to do that. What kind of woman tells Dwayne Wade's son that wanting his wiener cut off is something to be admired? Michelle, you don't want anyone to cut your wiener off. Whatever that thing looks like, she's got like some wild kielbasa running around in her pants as she comes down the steps. You've seen that too. Didn't you see that when she was at Harvard? She was in Emerson Hall, I think. She came, the thing was, but I mean, I wish I had that much. I'm a dude. If that's, I don't know what that was. So maybe, I don't know. Anyway, maybe they have a colostomy bag or something. I don't know. But that thing was popping. It popped a whole lot. And I just said, my eyes aren't playing tricks on me. That looked like something was bobbing and weaving.
With that, you guys, remember, like, share, subscribe. Make sure you like and subscribe to both channels, Angry Man's Book Club, as well as Let's Talk Too. Like
you got the blackout. Are you ashamed of that? Angry Black Men's Book Club. And you did it twice.
Yeah, I did it twice, right?
Yes, I mean, because you're trying to cross over. Oh, so you got a plan to get 10,000 viewers. So you got to take the word black out of everything.
Remember to subscribe to Angry Black Man's Book Club.
Angry Black Men's Book Club.
And make sure you guys subscribe.
Brother, and you know what? We got to do one more film review. Hey, y'all, what y'all say? We got to go in on this nigga Carlton Pearson. I just do. Little metrosexual looking ass. So make sure that you see that film. Come Sunday, I want all y'all to watch the Come Sunday film. I know it's been out for a while. Well. It's on Jerk Off Flicks. Just see it, and we will be back in books. I hope you guys, as a person from multiple Indian nations, Thanksgiving, it's a time for family to get together. It's always weird for me because my family is like a damn Indian family and we celebrate the holiday and shit. Maybe it's because we all weren't killed off and shit. Maybe we're lucky, Anyway, good night. God bless. We will be back in books. Oh my God, I can't wait. This next wing, I got just some more of a Shirley Chisler to do. And then it's going to be a war on feminists. So if you hate feminism, this is the right channel. Share this with all the patriarchs. Okay. Love everybody. I know you got to go, brother. So I'm going to let everybody leave. You guys take care. You guys. Done for me lately? It's Coons. What have y'all done for us lately? And if there's no answer, the only thing we owe them